Drake is one of the most well-known rappers in history, and he has become closely associated with sports throughout his career. One team in particular he has been seen repping for a long time. At one point, he even warmed up with the team before a game with future NBA stars Devin Booker and Karl Anthony Towns. How has Drake become this massive Kentucky fan, and where did his relationship with the Kentucky Wildcats start? Before this video starts, the NBA playoffs are starting very soon. With teams making their final pushes before the postseason, make sure you're there to see your favorite team make their playoff push. Is your team already eliminated? Don't worry, plenty of artists are on tour right now, and the MLB season is starting soon. Whatever your choice of entertainment is, SeatGeek has tickets for you, and if you use our code NEXTMANUP, you can get $20 off your first purchase of $20 or more. A pretty good deal in my opinion. Drake's fandom for Kentucky started as early as 2009, as our records show. In 2009, he was seen coaching during the team's annual Big Blue Madness, and in 2010, he sat behind their bench during the tournament. Many wondered where his fandom for an American college came from, as he is Canadian, and he says that it stems from two places. The first is that he spent a lot of time in Memphis as a child visiting his father, but Memphis just didn't stick with him. His appreciation for the university came after performing there, as he said he felt a strong connection. As the years ramp up, we will see more and more posts about the school, but this early time frame it seemed like his fandom was a little more under the radar. Our next event came in 2012, where Drake posted a picture to his Instagram showing a Kentucky championship ring that he got sent to after Kentucky went to win the 2012 national championship. This team was special, as they went 38-2, going undefeated in the SEC and winning the SEC regular season championship before going on to win the national championship. The main reason they won this title was the roster they had, and it was generational, as this team would go down as one of the greatest in college history. Starting with their freshman class, they recruited 4 5-stars, with 3 getting drafted in the first round of the NBA draft. These 3 players would be Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, and Marquise Teague. They would also have 3 more players drafted in the 2012 draft on the roster, being Terrence Jones, who would go in the first round, Dorian Lamb, and Darius Miller, who both got drafted in the second round. This marked 6 players that would get drafted in the following year's draft, ranking pretty high all time. Drake's ring had his name engraved in it, and many wondered how Drake of all people got the ring, despite not going to the university or really being linked with the team at that time. The next time we would see Drake with Kentucky would be in 2014, where we would get a plethora of memes from his trip with the team. The most infamous would be where we see Drake warming up with the team. He would be kitted out in Kentucky gear and would get out on the court to put up some shots. By now, I'm sure you've all seen the video of his airball, but I'll play it just in case you haven't. The more interesting part about this trip actually comes after this, as almost a year after, a few months after this happened, it would come out that Kentucky sent Drake a cease and desist list, as we see right here, after informing the 3 recruits in town for Big Blue Madness that they were not allowed to have contact with Drake. Athletic directors went as far as trying to coordinate who would be in the hallways to ensure they did not cross paths. After Big Blue Madness concluded, Drake headed back towards the locker room to say goodbye to the coach, who wasn't there, and PSA number 3, who we now know as 4-star shooting guard Charles Matthews, approached Graham and asked for a picture, which we can see right here. It did come out that they would get a minor level 3 violation, and the University of Kentucky issued a cease and desist list to Drake, directing him to refrain from conversations with prospects or taking photos with prospects because of all the NCAA rules. It would come out later that John Calipari, the coach, would say, "Just so everyone knows, my dear friend Drake took pictures with fans as well as a couple guys as he was leaving the arena after Madness, and there are no issues with Drake and Kentucky, and Drake is and always will be part of our Big Blue family. I hope to see him on campus soon." So even though they did self-report the violations, they were level 3 violations, so it didn't really mean much in the end, and the cease and desist letter didn't really do too much, as we'll see. Drake still has a very healthy relationship with the coach and Kentucky in general. The next instance we would see would be another level 3 NCAA violation, as Kentucky would self-report, as Tyler Ulis would post a picture with Drake after a concert in Ulis's hometown of Chicago. So something like we just talked about, once again, a level 3 violation, not too heavy as Kentucky would self-report it, but the recruits at the time weren't supposed to be taking pictures with Drake since he's a big influence, and they didn't want to get in trouble as if their commits only went there because of the picture, which we all know wasn't the case in the end. As Ulyss and all these other players that were already committed were going to Kentucky to play good basketball, not just because they had a connection with Drake, but this would be the next instance that we would see. Next, in October of 2017, we would see Drake go back to Big Blue Madness, as we would see him address the crowd at the time. And throughout his history with Kentucky, he would go almost every single year, depending on what was going on with his touring schedule and album and stuff like that. But in 2017, I'll show a clip here of him addressing the crowd, as he definitely was a big fan of Kentucky at this point. And in 2017, we all knew that he was connected with Kentucky, as him and Coach John Calipari would be almost best friends, it seemed like, at this point. And from 2017 to 2023, we would see subtle hints as Drake would post his bets on Kentucky almost every single year. In March Madness, he would post himself repping their merch and a lot of other smaller things throughout this time. But the next big event that we would see would come in July of 2023, where he would actually invite Kentucky to practice at his house. And yes, at his house. If you guys haven't seen it already, I'll post a picture right here. This is what Drake's basketball court looks like inside his house. Just a full-size NBA court, and his house is massive. I'll show some pictures of the outside of it as well. And the Kentucky team, which we saw this season, as this was in July, the upcoming team this year with players like Rob Dillingham, would show how insane practicing inside of his house was, as it was a full-size court and had all the amenities that you would need to. And we also have some videos here of Coach Call just partying outside of his house, almost like a pool party at this point.
Alright, we're Drake, relaxing. Really wish you were with us.
Now, the final instance that we'll talk about happened a few weeks ago, actually, when Drake would bring out Rob Dillingham to the stage during his concert at Rupp Arena. And this was massive, as in Lexington, Rob Dillingham, one of the biggest players, a freshman this year, a projected top 5, top 10 pick in this year's NBA draft. And the crowd went crazy when he came out. And with all the NIL stuff going on now, with players being able to make money, there's no need to worry about any of these instances like we talked about before, with players maybe going to a school just because of pictures with Drake, as we saw level 3 violations, all of that kind of thrown out of the window now. And with Rob Dillingham making a lot of money through NIL, there was really no issues with Drake bringing him out to the stage here. As we can see, Drake has a pretty long history with the University of Kentucky, going through all these clips and throughout his past decade plus almost of being a fan of the team, and many would say that the Drake curse has really got to them, as they haven't won a championship since 2012 when they sent him that championship ring, and throughout the past few years they've been losing within the first or second round. Even this season, after he brought out Rob Dillingham, only 2 weeks later they would lose to Oakland in the first round of the tournament, despite being a pretty high seed and had pretty good odds to win the championship, one of the most bet on teams to win. Do you think this is because of the Drake curse? Do you think Kentucky is cursed now? Or do you think it's just a coincidence and maybe the one and done method just isn't going to work out anymore in college basketball? Let me know down below, and make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.